Hello. Aha, it does work now. I'm not late. Don't know what you're talking about. Welcome along, ladies and gents, to another round of your DCD season, round number 2 of the season number 2, and we're here for the Zandvoort Grand Prix. And you can see we've got a couple of new names, including the man on top, Rupsy Cola 09.9, and he's at his home race today. Hello to everybody in chat, by the way. AJ, Ruben, Briars, Floydy. Hello. We've got drivers trying to compete with Rupsy Cola's time as we get our first lap times thrown into the mix. And, Davey Norris heads up onto that front row with a 1:10.0. And the McLaren sitting about, just over a tenth behind Rupsy. We've got CC heading through the heading through the second sector now and running very wide. The Red Bull will not be setting a particularly competitive time. ARL heading round to the final corner. And, he's going to try and improve on that previous lap. What sort of time can he set as he comes up to the line? DRS is open, and he comes up to the line with a 109.847. So that is knocking Rupsy Cola off of his perch at this point in time. Yellow flags out in the final sector for CC, who seems to have had more problems, or maybe is backed out of that lap. Yep, definitely more problems because he's missing a front wing as he heads into the pit lane, and the Red Bull he'll hit the pit brake marker on his way in just to rub things in. Chuck Norris about to start his lap. MCH is coming around the final couple of corners to start his lap, and Ricky is going to try and do the same thing. Disqualification for Killer Zombie, who looks as though he's span on the pit exit and has been disqualified from the session. Okay. Interesting. Well, he'll be starting from the back of the field then. AJLS, aka ARL, coming into the chat, even saying had finally had 2 time laps on this set with cars in the way. Good thing there was fuel well. That's sort of situation you've always got to prepare yourself for. And fair enough, setting a 109 with a set of the used, or the used softs, I guess you would call them, as they get more used as they go on into the session, and a couple of laps on those softs is pretty fair game. I'm just gonna go into my menu for a second so I can get the audio up, because I don't need to hear it, you can. So hopefully that's fixed it. Is it? Yep, definitely. Okay, good. Around the final corner comes Ricky Maru in the kick Sauber, and he's going to come up to the line using all of that ERS. Even it's going to be a 110.3, so that puts him in 5th place. The kick Sauber doing pretty well so far. Floyd Pink just starting on a lap. So is Terry Tibbs, another new name, at least to me. He may well have raced in previous seasons, but I say season, because this is season number 2. He's going to come around the final couple of corners now. Where is he going to be able to put that McLaren as he comes up to the line? DRS open. It's going to be a tricky DRS zone because it does open halfway through the corner. It's going to be a 110.7 as he comes up to the line. Bryce just starts the lap. Floyd Pink is heading through the second sector, almost onto the third. It's a 49.8 as he heads into the final sector. And, we'll see where the Ferrari ends up going. He heads out of the chicane and down to the final corner. And where is Floyd Pink able to put that Ferrari as he heads out of the final corner, down to the line, full throttle to 111.5. More drivers on their next push laps. Then Briar's up to the line. Is going to come up with a 1:11.5. He may well be going again. He may be backing out of the lap. He's certainly got enough fuel to go again with 4.9 in the tank. But it does appear as though he's backing out, at least for now. CC's coming out on another outlap after the Red Bull backed out that previous lap, or invalidated even. Or it's an outlap. I'm lying to you. He's going to come around the final corner and begin his lap as DRS is now open. And he's going to come up to the line to begin his sets, or to begin his timed lap time, heading through turn number 1. Not quite clipping the apex as he would have wanted to do, but with 7 minutes and 50 left in the session, it's mostly a case of just getting a time on the board and letting the final lap time speak for itself. Heading out of that first couple of corners. Pretty okay, of course, missing that first apex, but he's been all right on the rest of them, and we've had a massive screen freeze there as CC head through out of the first sector with a 25.7. Rupsi up to the top of the timesheets with an 0.97, and the Alpine retakes that pole position, provisionally at least, away from ARL. Now CC heading through the second sector. Lots of high-speed corners. And coming out on the exit, number 72 Red Bull will head up to the first of 2 DRS zones on the lap and open up the DRS. It's 51.8 for the Red Bull, heading through the chicane now and coming out on the exit of it. Once again. Okay. And then 2 more corners to go before he comes up to the line. And where will the Red Bull put himself as he dips a tyre into the grass? Been there, done that. Up to the line, a 1:14.7. So he's going to want to go again and improve on that time. He's got 3 seconds to catch up to Briars in P10. And then a couple more seconds to go even further up, as that was a McLaren either getting out the way of running very wide out of the first corner. But 6 minutes 27 left in the session. Yellow flags out in 2 different places. The Mercedes and the Alpine taking excursions off of track. But we're going to have a look at ARL, who's challenging for this pole position. At the moment, improving in that first sector. He's got to find a 10th on this lap if he wants to catch up to Rupsi. And with DRS open, he may well do just that. Second sector split time, it's going to be an improvement by a 10th and a chunk. And, well, it's looking good for ARL to jump back up to the top of the timesheets. We'll see as he heads out of the final couple of corners. Where is the Kick Sauber? Not the Kick Sauber, the V-Carb going to put himself. 2 very irrelevant teams with very obnoxious title sponsors. Anyway, ARL up to the line, and it's a 109.546. So finds almost exactly 2 tenths and heads up right to the very top. Not many cars out on the circuit at the moment. Those on push laps are desynced from the rest of the field, and they're coming in now to prepare for their final runs. While we're here, thought I'd have a little bit of fun trying to pronounce some of the names of the corners around this circuit, because they're Dutch names, and they're very long. And I had this, so the reason I was questioning what round this was because I had a race the other day in, what am I saying, at Zandvoort. And I was going through all the names with my co-con, who could not say any of them. And so I think this is going to be a little bit of fun. So, heading out of the final couple of corners now. I'll go to them in a little bit. Is Chuck Norris? Is he going to come up? Oh, is he going to come into the pits? Oh, he's ruined the fun. There's a Mercedes who's just come out. Who's that? MCH. Yep, MCH has just come out. He's just skipped. I can't see that name. Hang on. Anyway, he's heading through Hugenholzbost and up to Hunzerug. He's just gone through Tarzan Bosch and Gerlachsbosch on that lap, or he's actually avoided Tarzan Bosch, and then he's up to Rob Slotemaker Bosch, and then down the hill to Schleivak, or Scheivak, now to Masters Bosch, which is the braking zone there, and then a long break to, just a long drifting break to Bosch 9 and Bosch 10. I presume Bosch is corner. I'll get Rupsi to rate these pronunciations in a bit. Now, DRS will benefit these drivers. MCH on his outlap, of course, not utilising it before he brakes for Bosch, and then around there, which doesn't appear to have a name. Then up to Kumho, which is the penultimate corner. This one, and then around Ari Luyendig Bocht, which is the final corner. And then up to the line goes MCH to begin his push lap. A 1:10.768 is what he has at the moment. And we'll see where the Mercedes is able to put himself as he heads through the first sector. Not going to go through... Well, I could go through the names again. Hugenholzbost and Hunzerug before he heads out onto... It's sort of like a... It's supposed to be a straight, but it doesn't quite have the same effect. It's an up and down, and MCH not improving by 0.05 of a second. Now heading through to the second sector and heading through the next unnamed corners, although I guess you could call them named. Corner 9 and corner 10, essentially, I presume is the translation. Now heading out to the DRS zone before crossing the second sector split time. Identical second sector is what MCH has been able to do. It is 0.5 down, but can he find any sort of time in this final sector? To get closer to the top, we shall wait and see. He's got 0.2 to gain to Floyd Pink, another 0.2 to gain to Ricky. MCH up to the line. He finds a 1/10.5. So not quite enough to get up to Floyd Pink ahead, but just solidifies his place in 7th with 1:55 left on the clock. Briars not improving in that first sector, improving a huge chunk in the second. And, well, he's found 0.4 in that second sector, but of course he was just about down. He was down by 0.06 in that first sector. Slide out of the final corner, but Briars is going to try and hold on to it as he heads out of the final one, up to the line with DRS wide open. It's going to be a 1:11.533. So he's lost 0.4 in that final sector somewhere, and he's got a lot of work to do. Presuming this is going to be his final lap time, if at all. He's got 16 seconds of leeway, essentially, to get round to the line. So any spins, he's done for. ARL on his final push lap, and that is the driver currently sitting on pole position. We'll see where the RB goes as he's going to head up to the first sector split time now. And what is it going to be? It's going to be... Well, he's clearly preparing for a final run, I think it's fair to be said. Luke Racer has just started his lap. I always, for some reason, start to say his name in like a weird country accent. Luke Racer, but never mind. He's improving by 0.136 as Rupsy Cola coming in the chat saying, well, not even a good lap for me, even though he said 0.5 quicker than practice. So fighting talk there from Rupsy. Luke Racer invalidates on his lap. He won't be improving, at least not for a little while. He's got 26 seconds to get that round. Confirmation as well from Killer Zombie, who's letting a few go through turn 1, and he didn't use particularly nice language, but he wasn't allowed to do something. We will have, by the way, a 13th driver in this race, which is good. The checkered flag is waved now. Ricky Maru goes up to the top. What a lap time from the kicked Sauber, who goes up 0.4 quicker than ARL. Rupsy can't improve. Well, he can, but not enough to go ahead of ARL. MCH goes up to 3rd place. That's a front wing missing for somebody. Davy Norris is improving by 1/10.5. He needs to find some more time, but it's a 1/10.5 in the first sector, so that does promise. And he's going to come up now to the second sector split time, and it's a 1/4 of a second improvement for Davy Norris. If he can find 2 more tenths, he's up with Rupsy Cola. If he can find another, he's up with ARL. And if he can somehow find an entire second, he's up there with Ricky at the very top. Now Davy Norris heading around the final corner. Our championship leader, championship winner last time out. He's up to the line with a 1:09.917. It's 4th place for Davy Norris. ARL is improving. He's got 0.171 as he comes up to the line, but it's not enough. 09.453. And 2nd place is where he sits. But it's Ricky Maru with that lap time at the end who took that pole position. The Norwegian sitting on top, 109.120. ARL 0.333 back, which could spell a very good weekend for the Frenchman if he believes in angel numbers. Then Rapsicola 5.52 behind pole time with a 109.6, and 3 tenths back to Davy Norris. Two further tenths back to MCH with another tenth back to Luke Racer, and then 3 tenths to Floyd Pink, 2 tenths to Terry Tibbs, another tenth to Chuck Norris, and then Bryars in the 111s just couldn't hook up that final sector. CC with a 114.7, and Killer Zombie with a disqualification. We're looking to start at 28 minutes past. And, well, get your race predictions in chat. Rupsy lost 4 tenths in the first sector. Hopes for a good race. And, well, if he's lost 4 tenths in the first sector, I'm sure he'll have a good race. I'm going to go to an intermission screen because I'm very cold. And I'm going to find something to warm up. Please don't start without me. Right, we're not going at 28. We're going now, apparently, from the looks of things. Somebody has decided to ready up early, which means that we may not be getting Robert Newbert in, but we will be going to the 5 red lights. Oh, I think we might. Yep, we're having a restart. Okay, even more time to have a break and not be cold. So I will be right back with you within the next couple of minutes. Right, we're back, ladies and gents, and we're back for a race a day here in DCD. Oh, I forgot to do that. Hang on. Give me 2 ticks. The stupid... Every time Discord updates, every time I get pinged or a DM or something like that, it is windowed on full screen. Oh my god, it is. Okay. Great. Okay. But we're readying up and we're getting ready to go to race day. I'm getting ready to... You might see a sneak peek of my... Yeah, you're gonna... You didn't see anything. Didn't see a thing. Not at all. And what's D&D? Oh, it's streamer mode, isn't it? There you go. Streamer mode's active now. So you won't see any of that sort of rubbish for the rest of this race. We're loading in for the Dutch Grand Prix, so get your predictions down in the chat now. Joke again, says Nike. I mean, it is 7:41, so no comment. But it is what it is. But now it's just we're ready to get underway. Be interesting to see what strategies are being employed tonight. We've got softs all round so far, but some may switch onto a different compound of tyre, and some may not. Some may actually just start on the soft. I think I'm unsure of what the actual strategy would be, because the last... Of course, as I mentioned during qualifying, the last Zandvoort race I did was a Ginetta Cup. I didn't mention that part. I think I said... Did I say something about ACC? It was on ACC. It was on... it was the Ginetta Cup. And they only pit for refueling. It was interesting to see, actually, how a different car takes this circuit. Because, of course, I did mention that it was sort of a glorified go-kart track, I think is what I said. I think it's what I've maintained throughout, is that it's just like too small for Formula 1. But that does mean that moves will be gambled, and that is absolutely perfect for what we want to see here tonight. We want to see gambled moves, stuff like that, everything that will just take us to what will be a more exciting race. And the more exciting the race, absolutely the better is what we will get. I mean, we're getting ready to get underway. We are getting ready to get underway. Remember your setups. Remember your strategies. And remember, take all that fuel out of your car. As, well, one of the extra people that was supposed to be joining, his game wasn't working. But we've got Bramble joining us tonight, rocking up at the back of the field. He'll be an interesting case to watch, as I'd argue he's probably the quickest driver. But we will see as he starts on the back row of the grid. The front row of the grid are ready and under the lights. And we're underway here in Zandvoort. It's a good start for Ricky, who's going to get off the line well, and he's going to be unchallenged into turn at number 1. ARL holding on to second place with Rupsy in third. Then there's MCH and Davy Norris side by side for P3 or P4 and P5 even, as they continue to fight. Huge send from MCH to try and steal the position, and he does so with ease. On the exit, he may have even compromised Davy Norris, who heads down now the sort of curve straight, and there's contact between the two. And Loop Racer and Davy Norris dropping down the field. Don't think they sustained any damage, but that's certainly damage for both of the McLarens. Terry Tibbs, who was so desperate to get underway, has now retired on the first lap of the restart after contact with his own teammate, Davy Norris, who has no front wing. So definitely not what he would have wanted to see, especially not what the McLaren teammates or the McLaren team in general would have wanted to see. But they will now have to rebuild from the very bottom with probably their quicker driver. Of course, I haven't watched much of Terry Tibbs, but just in qualifying, 3-second for CC after multiple warnings for track limits. And it is actually a full safety car, not virtual as it says there. The safety car is heading through the second sector as it stands. Terry Tibbs retiring from the session on lap 1 of this race. And we've got Bramble already coming into the pits. Well, he's on mediums at the moment. Did he pick up any damage? Potentially, yeah, he did. So Bramble coming in for hards. Don't know why I did that. Bramble coming in for hards. Davy Norris coming in for mediums. And Bramble, well, before the race, he said, MS for me. So medium soft for me. Unless safety car. Well, he has been involved in the calls for the safety car. And so he's come in for a set of the hard compounder tyre. I'll try and get the clip for you. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to. I'm not sure whether it'll be reported before the end of the race. But, yeah. The field will close back in. CC's timing's still wrong. I'm not sure why or how, but CC's timing's still wrong. He'll try and fix it. But it is what it is. Safety car seems to be going very quickly. I don't know if that's just me, or maybe that was just a visual glitch. But it looked to be like accelerating down that straight at speed. Oh well. We don't talk about it, that's fine. Because they've now slowed down to a normal pace. You've got the kick salver leading after turn 1 and after lap 1. Though we didn't get much further than turn number 1. With Terry Tibbs coming together with Davy Norris. And from the looks of things, Bramble. So it looked as though Davy Norris and Luke Racer made contact. So MCH made the move on Davy Norris. Slammed the door shut. That broke Davy Norris's exit. Made it poorer. And then that meant that Luke Racer tried to go on the inside. Davy Norris didn't. Well, he did close off that inside line. He did. I don't think he noticed that Luke Racer was there, so he just shut that line off. Then they made contact when going into the wall, and somehow here, Davy Norris and Terry Tibbs ended up making further contact. So whatever it was that happened, if anybody involved, Terry maybe because he's retired, can tell me, that would be great. CC came in onto the mediums, so possibly damage for him as well. We'll have to see. Because I think with that gap, I think it was damage. Right, let me test something. So, Davy Norris came into the pits. And it was a 48.7 as a result. CC came in and it was a 57.4. What? Okay. I don't have a clue. CC's on their final warning for yet another penalty, and the safety car's coming in. Oh, I say yet another for his first penalty. Second penalty. Well, my MCH has just picked up a 10-second for contact with Floyd Pink. I've seen penalties like that removed before. But we will see whether it is, and now he's staying very clear. As Ricky sets us off here in Zandvoort for lap number 4. Safety car restart is underway, and he has had an incredible safety car restart. Rupsi Koda in his home race, maybe looking to get past ARL, not quite and just sits in behind in P3 as further back the gap between MCH and Floyd Pink continues to grow. Bramble trying to go for a move on Killer Zombie. Can he get the move done on the hards against the softs? Yes, he can. And he's up into 9th place. Next up, his teammate Luke Racer gets past Floyd Pink, who looks like he had a poor first sector because he drops back behind Chuck Norris as well. The Williams moving up into 6th place. Luke Racer moving up into 5th, and Floyd Pink dropping down to P7. Davey Norris making his way past Killer Zombie, and he's up into P10. And he's trying to rebuild his race from the very back up to the top. CC wasn't quite able to get it into the pack, I don't think, as the safety car came back in on the exit of the final corner. I don't think he was quite able to make it up to the pack, and as a result, he is off of the field now. Bramble's next target is his teammate Briars. He's on the set of the hard compound tyres, but he's an incredibly quick driver. As Briars, huge late moment into the final corner, and Bramble on the exit of it could make that move, especially with Briars tapping the wall there, and through goes Bramble. He moves up into P8. It's into the pits for Killer Zombie, who may well have sustained damage on that previous lap, hence why he's 2.3 seconds off of the pack now. It's really not been the V-Cubs weekend. First disqualification and now damage, further damage, which drops him down to the rear of the field. It'll even be past CC, and he's on to a set of the hards, hopefully for him, until the end of the race. Bramble now trying to pressure Floyd Pink. He's the next car up for the Aston Martin, and can he get past soon? We'll have to wait and see. His last overtaking opportunity came out of the final corner, mostly as a mistake from Briars. But now Bramble closing in on Floyd Pink ahead. He's going to try and make that move stick just right in behind, opening up that DRS. A wobble on the exit for Bramble does not stop him as he gets past Floyd Pink down the inside. Floyd Pink's going to try and fight back, but there's not really anything he can do. And Bramble up into P7. Next target up, Chuck Norris, who's dropped off the pack 3.3 seconds behind Luke Racer. So Bramble will want to clear him quickly and then close that gap down as quickly as he can. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix goes to ARL in his pursuit of P1 as he looks to try and go the long way around for Ricky. But he can't quite do that yet, and Bramble gets past Chuck Norris into P6. Davey Norris gets past Briars as well into P9. And it's not been that Aston Martin's lap as he drops now further down the field. He was fighting with his teammate just a couple of laps ago. Not anymore. And Bramble now closing in on Luke Racer for the top 5. His pace so far, even on those hard compound tyres, has been impressive. And he's going to try to continue that momentum as we look further up. ARL set the fastest lap time last time out in pursuit of Ricky. And don't forget as well, Repsicola and MCH still within range of the top 2. Luke Racer dropping off of it a little bit, 2.3 seconds between MCH and Luke Racer, and then another 3.4 for Bramble. Fastest second sector for Ricky as ARL tries to close in. The DRS will only benefit the RB though as he heads out of the final corner, and Ricky's going to try to set himself up well for said final corner and to head down the main straight. ARL will open up that DRS. He's almost built up a gap of over DRS to Repsicola. It has dipped above it, and ARL to the inside line on Ricky as they head into turn number 1. Ricky trying to go the long way around, trying to stick to the outside line, but he just doesn't have enough grip, and ARL moves up into first place, and Ricky's now the driver who has to do the chasing for the first time in this race so far, with Repsicola 8/10 behind. And if either of these two fight too hard, then the Alpine and the Mercedes will be invited right back into the battle. Floyd Pink comes into the pits, and he'll be switching onto a set of the medium compounded tyre. It's lap 7 of this Grand Prix, so that's quite early to switch onto the mediums from the softs, but maybe they are already going off. We will see the evidence in the pace of Repsicola against these soft runners. At the moment, the softs do appear to have the advantage, but Repsicola just keeping within range. He's going to try and stay within range for as long as he possibly can, and then the advantage will go to the Alpine towards the later end of this stint. Ricky looking for the outside line, maybe on ARL, not quite being able to make that move stick, and now the final corner will beckon. And after the final corner, it's the main straight. DRS has already been opened before the end of the final corner, and he pulls to the inside line. Ricky is going to retake this P1, and he's actually going to retake it before even the first corner. ARL going to try and fight it back a little hard, but not quite hard enough, and he just sits in behind. Bramble not been able to make those inroads on Luke Racer, by the way. He's been able to make them on the two Norrises, but that is because those two are fighting. David Norris to the inside, Chuck Norris holding it around the outside, and Briars trying to tuck his nose in, but cannot quite do it as it stands. They've swapped over the last couple of laps a couple of times, and they're going to continue to do so. They're in 7th, 8th, and 9th. Never mind. Commentator's curse. Chuck Norris has lost the rear, and he's actually fully gone into the wall now. No end plate there, and no half of the front wing really for him. As a huge send it looked like for Ricky trying to get past ARL. Unable to on this occasion. He's going to try it once again later on. But Chuck Norris once again seeing his race just go downhill. Both Norris brothers, they're not brothers, not having good starts to their weekend. And, well, we are 1/6. Are we? No, we're just less than 1/5 into the race. And they're going to continue on as it stands. ARL leading, pulling off to the left-hand side. Ricky's going to have to go the long way, and he does so with relative ease. And he's back up into P1 as the kick Sauber. On lap 9 of this race, Briars has lost DRS to Davy Norris. Chuck Norris having a spin put pay to that battle, and I do have to sincerely apologise because I can only take responsibility for him going round, and I'm sure he'll let me know post-race that that was exactly what happened and no fault of his own. Ricky continuing to lead this race then ahead of ARL, and he's holding on to this race lead, and he's going to hope to hold on to it for as long as he possibly can. Those softs won't last very long, especially not in the wake of another car, as Chuck Norris retires from the session in the pit lane. And, well, I'm disappointed in you, Mr. Chuck Norris. You still had points potential at least, on the board with the way that Killer Zombie and Floyd Pink and CC's weekends are going. Floyd Pink less so actually, but CC and Killer Zombie definitely had points on the board. And, well, you've opted to retire from this race. The top 4, the only drivers still within DRS range, but that is exactly the 4 drivers you would want to have in DRS range as we head into double figures lap 10 of this 36 lap race, as we are over a quarter of the way through it now. And Ricky and ARL very close together. Rupsy on the medium, starting to gain a little bit back further on into this stint. As I said, those softs are going to start to go off within the next few laps, and then the mediums become the ideal tyre to be on, unless your name is Bramble, in which case you are on the hards and you are absolutely flying. He's almost within DRS Loot Racer now, and he's going to try and make it within that DRS range of Loot Racer. 1.1 seconds between the Mercedes and the Aston Martin as it stands at the moment. And he's going to try to close in. Loot Racer losing time as there's another send from ARL. I'm really missing the exciting moves here, and ARL getting through on Ricky. Rupsy Cola trying to find a gap, but he can't quite do so yet. He will know, though, that he has the ideal tyre to be on at this point in time, and so he will be starting to pressure, as that is CC off at the first corner. And the Red Bull, his weekend just continues to get that little bit worse, and props to him for keeping going, because Chuck Norris did not do so. Down the main straight once again, ARL leads this one. Ricky closing in 2/10 and then down to 1, but not quite close enough to make a send as it stands. Rupsy Cola waiting in the wings, as we've had another moment. I think it's once again CC as Bramble makes his way past Loot Racer. And the next target, the top 4. But that's going to be the hardest target of all, especially because the pace that he had on those hards, not quite the level that he would have wanted to be able to achieve, especially in this later part of the stint. Of course, he was very quick in the first part of the stint, but as we've headed on, it's just sort of not been as good. Killer Zombie getting past CC into P10, while CC sits in P11 now and out of the top 10. But if he keeps going, I'm sure he'll get points, because drivers are going to make mistakes. I think Floyd Pink may be retiring from the session, or he's coming in for something else. Does he hit the wall at any point? Yeah, fair enough. He's not retiring from the session. And he's getting a new front wing suited and booted on the number 19 McLaren. He's actually going to get lapped by the top pack as he heads out of the pits. And that's not what you would have wanted. Chuck Norris underfloor damage lap 1, by the way, so that is the reason that he retired. Still not reason, is it? Floyd Pink comes out just behind Briars, I believe. No, it's Luke Racer that he's just come out behind. So he's now lapped by 6 of the cars. But he's going to keep going. A real trooper continuing on. Hoping for maybe that 1 point if somebody does retire. Because, of course, somebody may retire. And then in that event, they will be very well set to take the opportunity. Rupsi-Cola looking racy on the rear of Ricky Maru at the moment, who has dropped off ARL. Not much, but 4 tenths. And then a 2 tenths gap between Rupsi and Ricky mean that the Kick Sauber will be looking in his mirrors more than forward, unless he feels as though defense or attack is the best form of defense, in which case he will try to attack ARL like there is no tomorrow to fend off the medium runner, as the mediums start to become the proper advantageous tyre to be on the head down the straight for the 13th time, and ARL continues to hold this lead. I mean, there's a little bit of a lull now in this battle as Ricky doesn't feel as though he needs to make that move. Luke Racer dives into the pits, 10-second time penalty, speeding in the pit lane, and that could cost the Mercedes a lot of time in the grand scheme of things. Ricky, poor exit out of the corner, and can Rupsi take advantage? The answer is no, not quite yet. Luke Racer coming out of the pits now, he will be in P8, and there's a big gap back to P9. So I think regardless of what he does today, as long as he stays in the race, P8 is more or less his. Rupsi-Cola continuing to try to fight Ricky. And this is the battle at the moment for the top few positions. Ricky making a mistake, and Rupsi-Cola sliding his way through. That is exactly what the Mercedes wanted, or the medium runner wanted even. That is not what the Kick Sauber would have wanted. As now Rupsi may have even actually dropped out of the DRS. I think he was just inside at the detection zone. And, well, no, he wasn't. And Ricky's going to try and fight back now with that DRS. And with those softs that he's going to try and... No, he's not. He's going to come into the pits. Is the Kick Sauber is the first of the top runners to come into the pits and switch off of a set of those soft compound tyres. It'll be a regulation switch, I would imagine, from softs onto mediums. Yep, medium tyres on for the last 22 laps of this race, and he's going to come out in P6, possibly even P7, as Briers now heads down the main straight. Ricky's going to come out comfortably in P6 in the end with that weird pit exit where he comes out on the end of turn number 1. Hello, Callum. Yes, it is Zandvoort again. Just like I was saying earlier, just like Monday. But there we go. It's a breakboard taken out there, as that is CC trying to move out the way. But yes, it is Zandvoort again. Very different circumstances this time, with a much more interesting race. No, I'm joking. It was a very good race actually. Yellow flags out once again as CC's really struggling to get out of the way now of most of these cars. ARL continuing to hold on to the lead of this race at the moment. He's trying to build a gap to Rupsi-Cola. It's 0.8 at the moment, with MCH 1.4 behind, with the Mercedes soft compound tyres starting to go off, and with Ricky coming into the pit, I think he's going to be a trendsetter. Indeed he is, as he comes in before ARL and MCH, but they both come in on that next lap to switch off of the set of the soft compound tyres, and the Mercedes pit crew not expecting that to move, but they have actually gone for it, and he's going to serve a 10-second time penalty that he picked up for contact under the safety car, which of course now he cannot get removed because of the fact that he's actually served that penalty physically in the pit lane. He's going to come out now in what will be P8, behind his teammate Luke Racer, who has just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, 1:11.842. That is a pretty solid time, especially on a new set of those medium compounder tyres. It's going to be an attempt now for everybody else to try and close in that gap. Whether he's able to do it is another question. 6.7 seconds is what he's got, and he's got free rein to try and close in forward. Ricky actually getting a huge advantage from that undercut, so he must have had an absolute stormer of a lap, although actually MCH with that 10-second time penalty, that would explain it. Floyd Pink's gone round, and he's hit the wall. Actually, he might not have gone round, but he's definitely hit the wall, and he's caused a virtual safety car. Wow. Whether that was intentional or not, he was stopped for an incredibly long time. And, well, the virtual safety car comes out now. Perfect timing for Rupsi-Cola, Bramble, and Davey Norris to come into the pits. Unfortunate timing for Ricky, for Luke Racer, and for MCH. But Davey Norris might not even chance a move into the pits. We'll see whether McLaren does. Yes, he does come into the pits. And it's hards for Rupsi. Mediums for Bramble. Presumably hards for Davey Norris, unless he feels like he can gamble 20 laps on the softs. Yep, hards are being strapped on. 10 seconds worth of penalty for Floyd Pink, who comes into the pit lane. Does he finally give up? Yes, he does. That's a shame for the Ferrari, who did so well to keep it going. But at the end of the day, he comes into the pits and retires from the session. Lap 16, 11th place. So everybody staying in this race will get points. And with 20 laps to go, you can imagine that with 3 drivers already out of the race, we could have a couple more. So stay in the race because you definitely have a decent chance. David Norris was struggling with, well, quite a lot there with that pit, with the Delta time. But he's been able to get going once again. And he's absolutely fine at the moment. And tell you who will be absolutely flying, ARL, who's going to try and get past Rapsicola. Bramble, who's going to try and get past Ricky Moreau as well. So it is a battle between those who came in before the virtual safety car and everybody else. Well, it's Ricky versus everybody else, essentially. But he didn't come in that much earlier than the virtual safety car, and he would have had the opportunity to get those tyres warmed up. He doesn't have that DRS, though, as he heads down onto the main straight, and that means that he's going to be under pressure from Bramble, as there could be a switch for the lead of the race. ARL moves up into first place. Bramble and Ricky side by side for P3. It's down the inside, and it's the move made for Bramble, who moves up into third place, and he's going to try and now push forward. The fastest man on this circuit, I would argue, so far this evening is going to try and close in further and try and catch up to Rupsy and ARL and maybe take the lead in this race. It would be a very good performance from the back row. Well, not quite the back row, P12 of 13. So not quite the back row, but depends on the way you're looking at it. It is the back row. Bramble sending it on Rapsicola, who has a poor exit, and that doesn't benefit Ricky, as now those two dropping massively back. 1.6 seconds is now the gap between them and Bramble, as Ricky's going to get past with the DRS. Rapsy's going to try and fight him, squeeze him to the inside, but at the end of the day, he cannot do much, and Ricky, still holding on to that P3, is going to try and close in now to the top pack, as Rupsy dropped off of it with a poor exit. It's 2.1 seconds. DRS is going to aid Bramble in his attempt to get past ARL back to first place, as that was more issues for CC getting out of the way. Fastest lap for Bramble, just to rub it in, with a 1:11.074, and Rupsy gets back past Ricky with the DRS into turn 1. Ricky, though, takes the long way round, and he is successful and kicks Sauber back into P3 and back onto that podium. Rupsy is starting to really struggle on those hards. Not 100% sure why he's struggling so much at this point, because the hards generally are an alright tyre, especially if you've done a few laps on them, as he has. He's on his second lap, almost onto his third now, and well, you could case in point there of how much Rupsy is struggling. So maybe there's no front wing damage, so maybe it's just a sort of setup issue. Maybe he's just really struggling for those mediums. Bramble trying to get the exit on ARL. He's been successful, and the DRS will blast him past the V-carb and up into first place. The Aston Martin from 12th on the grid all the way up to the very top of that field. As well, I was going to turn off the tyre screen, but I think it's very helpful to see that Rupsy is on those hards. So is Davy Norris and Briers, who is 10.9 seconds off the pack. Davy Norris is trying to close in to MCH. He'll be quicker at the end of the race, I would imagine, but it will be now a race to see who can make those medium tyres last the longest. Whether they can make it last the next half of this race, we'll have to wait and see. ARL now is trying to close in on Bramble, but whether he's able to do that or not is another question. If there is any mistakes, then Ricky is there to pounce. He's 2.3 seconds back. The gap is coming down, but not by a significant margin. I think that just may be because he had an absolute stormer of a lap last time out. I'm not sure whether he'll be able to repeat that. But as it is, he sits 2.3 seconds behind. But he has broken that gap to Rupsy, who had a poor couple of laps and really finds himself struggling down in P4 in no man's land. And Callum, if you're still watching, the John Dalton zone, which I explained to the DCD viewers last time out as we were in Australia. Were we in Australia? No, I don't think we were, actually. What am I waffling about? Both DCD and IRL roll into one after a while. Was it Australia? Yes, it was. I'm not lying. I did explain this last time out. Somewhere beyond the sea. Lap 20 then of this race, and Bramble has now broken DRS to ARL. It is now going to try to break away and take victory in what would be a very dominant performance. But somebody who's looking to try and get into that DRS is CC. Further issues, no front wing. I think he may well have just locked up and gone into the wall. The mythical John Dalton zone, exactly. I see the issue that I've got now is that I will mention the John Dalton zone at some point on comms with a man that I have to co-com with soon. Well, I say have to. I'd like to co-com with soon. His name is Evan, and his last name Dalton. So I think he's going to be a little bit shocked at the fact that he's had a zone named after him. If you don't know what the John Dalton zone is, by the way, because I know we've got a couple of new racers who are probably listening for the first time, like for example, the likes of CC or Rupsy Cola. The John Dalton zone is when you are in a very good position, like, for example, Ricky is at the moment, but then a big gap in front and a big gap behind means that you're just sort of in a no man's land. I'd say that the gap that Ricky and Rupsy have isn't quite big enough. I want to say it's more like 5 seconds at the very least in an F1 car. But yeah, because 5 seconds is quite a long time in a Formula One car. I was actually telling John the other day that I mentioned it on comms, and he was very confused. CC 10-second time penalty, just to add to his woes for today, as he now jumps up to 22 seconds worth of penalty, and he's nearing the disqualification zone, I think. So he just really needs to manage that to the end now and just get to the end. Otherwise, he won't be picking up that 1 point. He won't be the first disqualification of this race weekend. Of course, we saw Killer Zombie disqualified in qualifying for trying to let people out of turn number 1 through, but just struggling to find the right line, I think it is fair to be said. And he just sat on pit exit, basically, is what he did, and got disqualified from qualifying. But considering he started from the back of the grid, he's not doing badly. 9th place. Of course, that is a 9th place with a 1 minute and 10-second gap. That is a 9th place where he's been lapped. But he's absolutely fine sitting in 9th place as it is, and he'll just be taking 2 points home as while there's yellow flags out. Ricky retires. Ricky retires from the session, and we've got our second safety car. What has happened to Ricky? He's in the pit lane. What's going on with Ricky there? Not sure, but no, we don't have a safety car. What am I lying about? What am I waffling about? I need to find out what happened to Ricky, though. He's currently typing, but the man fighting for podium is now out completely of this race. And I'll be able to bring you the information when I have it. I'll have it very, very soon. But lap 22 of 36. And Ricky has pulled off. Hang on, it said he pulled off to the side of the circuit. Then it said that he came into the pits. What? Classic F1 stuff, I think. And, well, unfortunate stuff for Ricky, who does retire from this session. Of course, we will get the information about him as and when we find out. And you will be the first to find out. Because, of course, nobody's reading the Discord because they are racing, or at least I would hope. We continue on lap 23 of this race now, and Bramble really building that gap out in front as much as he can. 3.4 seconds is what he has at the moment, and Ricky's actually stopped typing, so never mind. I just asked him what happened. He's been, well, if Killer Zombie gets past on the main straight, so it was pits, I think. He retired in pit, but as usual, yeah, it looked like, though, he was parked in a really odd space. But also, why did he retire in pits? As Rupsy picks up a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits, but that won't affect him too much because Luke Racer behind also has one of those. But yeah, why did Ricky retire? He was in a good place. The only thing I can think is that he had to go. But unfortunate for him then, the number 47 Kick Sauber, who had an absolutely stonking lap to take him up to first place in qualifying. Not quite the same pace this time out, and he will be dropping behind us. We've got a move for P5. Davy Norris getting through on MCH into P5 with the Mercedes now dropping down to P6. It's about to run through the standings as it is. Bramble is in P1 on 26 points with AJLS, aka ARL, is in P2. At the moment, they are still sitting exactly where they were, and with Bramble with that fastest lap. It's a rinse and repeat of last week. Unless Rupsicola can... Well, if Rupsicola has a problem and MCH gets past Davy Norris, it will be the top 4 that are exactly the same as last week with Luke Racer, who took third place, and it was the other Mercedes in P4. Speaking of a Mercedes, Luke Racer has gone into the wall and has lost his end plate. He's done well to actually not pick up too much damage, and he's actually done well to let the other two past, but Luke Racer now dropping to P6, and well, that could be another case of the commentator's curse, because I said that if Rupsicola had a problem, then it would be Luke Racer in P3. Then Luke Racer has issues and drops down. Ricky says there's, well, contact between the two. MCH trying to go around the outside of Davy Norris. There's yellows. Virtual safety car for something. For what? For what? Okay. Ricky said front's overheating massively. No practice with setup. Front left was already 35%. Wasn't going to get to the end. Points, though. He could have gotten points. Because, of course, everybody left in this race will get points. Even before he retired, everybody in the race would get points. So, very... Okay. Interesting. Anyway, virtual safety car is out. Interesting. Not sure why the virtual safety car is out, but it is out nonetheless. ARL into the pits. He's going to switch, trying to do something different against Bramble. Softs is what he's putting on for the last 11 laps. I mean, they worked in the first stint, so I'm not too confused by that decision. They worked in the first stint, especially with Rupsy and Bramble now not coming in to the pit lane. With 10 laps to go now, ARL has a good opportunity. CC weekend just gets that little bit worse. Drive-through penalty under the virtual safety car. MCH and Davy Norris fighting away. MCH down the inside makes that move stick. Norris and MCH had contact, did they? When? Oh, into turn 1? Do you mean? A couple of laps ago. Yeah. I didn't know MCH. I didn't actually spot that MCH lost his side plate. So, eagle-eyed Floydy 1977 there. Floydy, who retired from the session despite almost getting guaranteed points. But we don't talk about that. And MCH will not have as much cornering speed as it is there. So I remember the contact. I didn't remember the damage. I did see a lot of debris flying off, but sometimes what it does is it lies and it says that there's a lot of debris coming up, and there just isn't. There isn't that much. MCH is now being closed in by Davy Norris around the final corner. Can the McLaren get through on the straight as doing a little bit of weaving as the Mercedes, but can't do too much, and Davy Norris around the outside into turn 1. We'll try and make this move stick. MCH, though, will try and make it not stick. He'll try and fight back, but there's only so much he can do, and he drops down into P5. And MCH, I don't think will be able to close in. I think it's just that impact damage will do just about too much damage to his race with the way that Zandvoort is. And, well, with 9 laps to go, he's really losing time. He's lost 3 tenths in that first sector. Luke Racer, fastest lap of the Grand Prix, stealing it off Bramble with a new set of softs. And I don't think Bramble will be fighting that back anytime soon. The only person that will is ARL. As Luke Racer gets a 10-second time penalty for ignoring blue flags. So I can almost imagine what that is for, as Bramble tried to get past, I think, and Loop Racer didn't really care. Down the straight once again, MCH just about clinging on to the DRS. And he's going to try to close in. It's 7/10 though. And I think he's just going to sit in behind now in P5. Trying to cling with that DRS. Of course, he's going to be aiming to stay within David Norris's range. But he just, with that end plate damage, with the way that those mediums are going to start to degrade, it's almost pointless. As there's yellow flags in Sector 3. CC comes into the pits. Don't retire now. You've been doing so well. You're in P9. You're going to get points, guaranteed. He's not retiring. Oh, it's the drive-through. My bad. And he's going to come out of the pits. Well, he's been lapped again by, I believe that's Briars, potentially Luke. Oh, no, it's Bramble and Luke Racer. So he's been lapped twice by Bramble. But it shows the sort of level of dominance that the Aston Martin has had. The fact that he's lapped CC twice. Yes, it's not been CC's day. But Briars has lapped everybody down to P7 in the field. That is levels. ARL has closed into Rupsicola with a set of those softs on. As what is that FPS that I've got there? And ARL is going to try to close in on the Alpine, and he's doing so with ease. But it's when he gets past that is the next question. Link Racer, another 3-second time penalty heading his way. ARL now is going to look for the inside, maybe the outside. Trying to get through on Rupsi. Can he make that move, or is he just going to sit right in behind? I think this is going to be a difficult place to make a move, but if ARL or Ricky are anything to go by earlier on in this race, they don't mind making a move in Sector 2. It is going to be into Sector 3 and into the braking zone of the chicane that he makes his way through, though, and that is exactly how he can get. That's exactly how he should be getting through, and that's exactly how he can. That's exactly how he did as well. And, well, he's got, what, 18 seconds to go to Bramble? So, steep task, very steep task. He's going to try to do it. Rupsi, though, is going to try and fight back around the outside. He's absolutely well within his rights to fight with 6 laps left to go. But ARL, with those new softs, just no real... What's the word? Competition. Knew it was going to be something really obvious. No real competition is Rupsi for ARL as it stands. And you'd imagine that the RB is going to break away and try and break that 14.5 second gap to Bramble ahead. But it's going to be difficult with 6 laps to go. He's going to have to do more even than 2 seconds to improve by. Inverted wings is a thing. What do you mean by that? Inverted wings being lower front than back? Because I can see that happening. I believe you're still in chat. Because it was Mr. Floydy 1977. Rupsi's lost DRS to ARL, and he drops out of that chase. And Bramble now. He's been closing. It's 5/10 on that last lap. But this is the real test of those soft compound tyres. So, yes, it is lower fronts than rears. What a game this is, eh? What a game. Don't know if you've seen much about the beta, by the way, but from the looks of things, it's just handling is the same, from what I hear, but the setups drastically change it. Tyre wear chasing cars drastically changes it, but overall, the handling is the same. Most tracks apart from Monza. Well, Monza, from what I remember, is 0-0, so you can't really invert 0-0, because if you invert 0-0, guess what? It becomes 0-0 again. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. That just sounds like a typical F1 thing to do, especially with the tyre pressure stuff that I was talking about in the chat. Because essentially, Ricky retired because he didn't test his setup and his tyre wear was huge. Some may say massive. And, well, he's just struggled on that. On the higher tyre wear. But or it used to be the meta at least, that high tyre pressures are like king, and it has been for this whole game cycle. But it may well be that the case is that that's changed finally, because that was not supposed to be the case. That's not how tyres work in real life. But I guess it is what it is. Yeah. I mean, F1 24 can't, as much as it's been a big game for me in terms of a lot of things, commentary wise, mostly, I can't look past the flaws in it. And I'm an EA affiliated commentator, thanks to Creator Series, but I just, sometimes things need to be called out, and I think this is one of those things that needs to be called out absolutely. As coming into the pits, there is Loot Racer, who is, well, he's got no pressure from behind, so I think he's just going to go for a hot lap until the end, which is fair enough. Why not? I did actually make my commentary debut on F1 23, but the less said about my F1 23 era, the better. Thank you very much. And yeah, F1 24, I've been flying forward as it was. So I'd only ever done on F1 23 7 commentaries even. I've now done over 120. So if that doesn't tell you something, nothing will. Not just on F1 24, mind. I had one on R Factor. I do quite a chunk of ACC now, as Callum will well know. I do. I'm going to do I can't announce that yet. iRacing soon. Scratch that. I can't announce that. But yeah, there's some iRacing stuff coming up. There's, what else is there? Yellow Flags. Davey Norris potentially. Oh no, CC again. WRC is the other one, essentially. So that is the experience I've had, and I'm looking to go, of course, into iRacing. Maybe more R Factor 2 stuff. Definitely more ACC stuff. CC's been disqualified from the session after another 10-second for corner cutting. I hate to say finally, but so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Then a drive through. I think he had a 10-second in that as well. So I think that got up to 31 seconds. So unsurprising that he was removed from the session. By the way, in the meantime, Davy's gotten past. Oh, Rupsy came into the pits, so the Alpine should be able to hold on to that position pretty easily. And yeah, indeed, he does Loot Racer 3-second time penalty. Rupsy's going to try and break away. It says he's only just behind ARL. That is a lie. Just how hard is it to do a beta? Yeah, get the info, make a game that works from the start. People pre-order for 80 quid. Yeah. Yeah. In short, yes, you're spot on. I just think ever since EA's come in, it's just really been difficult. I think they also have the issues with the having to limit what the game can actually do because of the fact they're on old gen. But if new gen is not any different, scratch that. I'm wrong. They're just not good game developers. Loot Racer's crashed. No. Loot Racer's crashed in the in turn at number 3, I believe it is. It's called Jürgen Holzbost. He's retired there. It is actually turn 3. I'm quite impressed with myself. But Loot Racer, who was doing so well, he was going to get points P7. It's all come crumbling down. He will still be classified, I think, in either P7 or P8. It may well be P8 because Killer Zombie wasn't lapped, I don't think. But we'll have to wait and see. Automobilista 2, I've never, ever even looked at. I've also never looked at R Factor 2 apart from the one race I did commentary on. LMU, I'm looking at, and I'm going maybe, but it's got so many mixed reviews that I'm like, maybe, maybe not. Yeah, Killer Zombie gets past Loot Racer now, so it will be P8 for the Mercedes man, even. But for somebody who it's not P8 for, it's certainly the opposite. He started in P12 on this grid after joining late. He got a blessing when Terry Tibbs restarted this, or he started the session early, which meant that we had to have a restart, which meant that Bramble could sneak in. Ever since, he has been the quickest driver on the circuit by far, and he will head on now around the final corner and up to the line to take a very dominant victory away here in the sand dunes of Zandvoort. That was much more difficult to say than I was hoping. And he will take victory. ARL was closing in not by enough, and he will take P2 in an exact same result as last week. But Bramble not picking up that fastest lap. He will only take 25 instead of 26 points home, but he'll extend that championship lead. On debut, Rupsy Cola, a man that I know very well, is going to head around the final corner to take that final podium position. And P3 is the Alpines. P4, Davy Norris, not quite close enough to Rupsy, but a very strong performance from our current champion. MCH heading across the line in P5, and then Briars and Killer Zombie off of the circuit, or off of the rest of the pack. Doing all right at the end of the day, but 6th and 7th is where they'll finish, and of course being lapped by Bramble. Not something that they'll do, or they'll have happen to them very often. But it's Bramble ahead of ARL, ahead of Rupsy Cola on that podium. The home man taking P3 on debut. And I think he'll be very happy with that. AJLS coming into the chat saying, well, tried everything. Pitted as might as well try something different. Well, I'd say you did all right. I'd say you did pretty well to stay within it and stay. Well, you were only 10 seconds behind. I reckon 10 extra laps, and it could have been different with the pace difference that you had. But of course, those softs wouldn't have lasted that long, so the strategies would have been different. If my grandmother had wheels, she would have been a bike, but she doesn't, so she's not. But still a P2. And it as Briars says, good points for the Aston team, doing well to come home in P6. In fact, Ricky and Floyd Pink were classified as well. So P9 and P10 for Floyd. Get those results quickly. So Bramble taking that victory home with ARL in P2, Rupsy in P3, then Davy Norris in P4, MCH in P5, Briars, and then Killer Zombie the final finisher 2 laps down on Bramble, showing how dominant that performance was from the man from Pakistan. Then it's Luke Racer, Ricky, and Floyd Pink rounding out the points, with Chuck Norris, Terry Tibbs, and CC all retire. Well, the Chuck Norris, Terry Tibbs retiring from the session, CC being disqualified. GG's to Bramble in the chat, coming in. And then on to a different topic. Automobilista, what do you mean 9 sim games for 11 quid? Sorry, I'm curious. You got them, Briars? Good. If not, they'll be on the VOD, which always stays up and will stay up until there's controversy surrounding the league, in which case, straight back down. You might laugh. Happened to me a couple of weeks ago. So... there we go. Another round of your DCD season finished. And the top 2 remain the same. It's P1 taken home by Bramble, the former SKG man. You can see why I'm mentioning that. The former SKG man taking home almost a perfect start to the season. Not quite, though, because he didn't get the fastest lap. I believe it was Luke Racer in the end who picked it up. But... that is where I shall leave it, and that is where I shall leave you. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. I hope you've all enjoyed the stream, all enjoyed the race, if you were indeed racing. And if your name is Callum, hello and goodbye, because you watched but did not race. You can join me on tomorrow. On tomorrow, that doesn't make sense. You can join me tomorrow for the WHF round on Twitch. Is it on Twitch? Yeah, it's on Twitch. I thought it might be on YouTube as well, but it's definitely on Twitch and TikTok. You can join me on Sunday for IRL, on Monday for the Janetta GT Cup, on RCI. By the way, IRL is here once again. Tuesday, the Almost Pro Championship on that YouTube channel. Not 100% that I'll be there, but about 90%. Wednesday, EXA returns, so join me on there. I'm a busy man. Thursday, PSGL returns, so join me there. Friday, we're back here in DCD. But until next time, regardless of when it is that you'd like to join me, until next time. I am looking at it, LB. Hello. Anyway. Just waiting to see if LB has anything to say. He's got about 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Too late. I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.